Coming up on Serious Joy, this Wednesday is our monthly Moon Wisdom. Join host Sensei Christopher Witecki as he brings the joy and the wisdom of this Sagittarius moon season, only on Serious Joy TV.
Earthlings, it's now time for Earth to be on alert. We have a Step 22 karmic earthquake coming up next Friday, the 14th. If you don't know, a karmic earthquake is when there's a shakeup in social order because society has become emotionally inflexible. I'll have the fault line for all 12 signs when we land. Hello, friends. Welcome to Namaste Today, Soul Horoscopes and your Zodiac weather. I'm your host, Sensei Christopher Witecki. I'm the founder of Serious Joy, and I'm the guardian channeler of the STEP system. And I'm so happy to be here today to help you with this cosmic moment. I mean, this is cosmic moment. But tonight, we're talking about you. We're focused on the steps 16 to 22 this week. These are the really volatile steps that really prevent things from happening or allowing things to happen. You're going to find that this week you commit to your success on a local level, but you're also going to have that moment where you decide whether or not you're going to go for it on the big level. Can you quantum shift your future? That's the question. You know, people say they want that future, but they quickly learn it might be tough. It might be emotionally uncomfortable. And your brothers and sisters may want not to cross what we call a karmic fault line. We'll talk about that for each of 12 signs in tonight's show. But before we answer those questions, why don't we dive deep tonight into the Zodiac Weather Report for your collective conscious.
Thanks, Sensei. This Zodiac Weather Report covers from Saturday, November 8th to Friday, November 14th, 2025, and is proudly sponsored by Refresh My Property. Did you know discordant energies like illness, trauma, violence, and even depression can linger on a property for hundreds of years? If you're feeling blocked or unsettled in your space, refreshmyproperty.net can help clear these energies remotely. Get your free consultation today. That's at refreshmyproperty.net. Looking ahead at your weekend forecast, we open to Spirit to sift through feelings on Saturday in order to decide what the new line is on Sunday. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's cloudy and connecting, as Step 16 puts Spirit in the driver's seat, opening to the depth of feelings needed for change. A moon in Gemini shifting into Cancer can bring some insight for and deeper recognition. As the sun trines the North Node in Pisces, consider this heaven-sent clarity for the way to proceed. Intend that I protect my own heart, as today you are affirming that I am trusting the subtleties of my feelings. On Sunday, it's murky and deliberate, as Step 17 asks for what your heart can be committed to protecting moving forward. A moon in Cancer gives a clear read on what feels good to attach to, but at 2:01 p.m., Mercury stations retrograde at 6 degrees Sagittarius, questioning what to be open to in order to choose the next adventure. Stick to the root intention of I protect my line to stay clear and affirm that I am reconsidering what I believe about myself, as taking it higher to feel protected is the mission. Taking a look at the upcoming week, feelings are the focus in order to shift where the line is to create that new abundant future. On Monday, we take steps for drawing the new line in daily life. Wednesday, we open to all the feelings. And on Friday, prepare for a shakeup in order to find the mission that's made just for you. Let's take a peek. On Monday, it's windy and inspired, as 18 Scorpio is ready to take a step for the heart. Affirm today that I am reenacting my karmic wish, as the time is right, but a moon and the high degrees of Cancer shifting into Leo can make the effort easy, but the execution bumpy. Intend that I protect my re-evolution and stay centered. Tuesday is partly sunny and private, as Step 19 Scorpio asks for you to keep up and be kept up today. A moon in Leo keeps those feelings plugged into the love. Intend that I protect my process and affirm that I am maintaining the momentum, as at 11:41 a.m., the largest planet, Jupiter, stations retrograde at 25 Cancer, allowing feelings the opportunity to self-support. On Wednesday is sunny and chilling, bringing in big feelings for how to draw new boundaries with the world. To get through, intend that I protect my future and affirm that I am embracing time and space as friends. Keep those boundaries tight on yourself today as the ego and the mind meet at 6:15 p.m. when Mars conjuncts a retrograde Mercury. Stay open for the new, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Thursday is partly sunny and envisioning, meaning that whatever is envisioned in the future offers the curiosity today to explore. Intend that I protect my options, as a moon in Virgo asks for you to be honest with what can be handled. Affirm that I am believing in my feelings about life in order to stay clear. Friday is partly cloudy and inquiring, as at 22 Scorpio, feelings bounce off of other feelings, indicating that if anything fails, consider it valuable intelligence. Take time and space to feel what that may mean for you. A moon in Virgo possibly presents how things have always been. So, affirm that I am drying up karmic issues to feel a new belonging in order to shift perception. This week is sensitive and internal, so honor yourself by taking sweet time and space to protect how you want to feel in the future, and working those boundaries in order for them to work for you. Back to you, Sensei.
Did you know that discordant energies such as illness, trauma, violence, and depression can linger on a property for hundreds of years, going all the way back to the very beginning of that parcel of land? This can also happen with family heirlooms, antiques, or previously owned furniture. If you've been feeling blocked in life, more ill than usual, or just uncomfortable in your home, your space could be holding on to residual energies. Refresh My Property can help clear these energies remotely. Scan the QR code to get your free phone consultation today and begin clearing your space and your life.
You started your business for freedom, but somewhere along the way, it turned into chaos. You're trying to fit your unique vision into someone else's blueprint, and it's leaving you feeling overwhelmed and second-guessing your every move. That's exactly why we created From Chaos to Clarity, your 12-week live business intensive. We give you the courage to claim your voice, the clarity to build your unique framework, and the conviction to lead your business your way. You'll get live power hours to hone your strategy and weekly accountability sprints to make sure the work actually gets done. Stop following, start building. You don't need to do it all alone. Clarity is closer than you think.
Are you looking for inspiration to grow your conscious business? Sirius Joy's Board of Light is a sacred alliance of lightworkers, visionaries, and spiritual leaders dedicated to awakening conscious leadership. Our next lineup of guests is ready to take you on that journey of spiritual enlightenment. Next quarter guests include Sofia Del Gigante, branding specialist, founder of Rising Creative Studio, beginning in November. Then in December, join us for Jillian McKenzie, spiritual strategist and soul project manager. In January, start your new year off right with Melly Garcia, creative relaunch BFF. Don't miss this profound lineup of wisdom. Join now for only $250 per year and be a part of the enlightened professional re-evolution. What are you waiting for?
To my earthly neighbors, it looks like the time has finally come. I've been talking about this since 2020 and COVID, and we had Jackhammer January, if you remember, where we had Saturn and we had Pluto conjoining in Capricorn. I said that is the first breaking point of what's going to really bring down a bit of a mountain of our establishment, the way we do business, and all sorts of things. Well, it looks like this week we start construction, or we should say demolition. That's why we predict this week to be karmic earthquakes. That's what's happening because people have made choices, and choices all collectively have a bigger response. We're about to see and feel the biggest response. And of course, it happens in Scorpio, the perfect sign to divide things up. Now, this week we go from step 16 to step 22 Scorpio. This is really the second half of the second decan, which means that we're wrapping up the middle point really. And this is where you make a decision about what you're going for in the future. The decision is twofold. On one hand, it's in your daily life, something practical and right now has to be done and determined and committed to. But also you're doing it with the purpose of a higher committed mission. And this other commission, what you want to do, frankly, it's going to take some faith. And at some point, you'll have to be a stunt man or stunt woman in your own life. It's going to be a leap of faith and a jump of some sort of chasm. So as we go through the week, we are moving through these steps, making the decision, and then we break into the higher realms or the highest consciousness of Scorpio over the weekend. Now, the moon over the week goes from Gemini into Virgo, and that's basically a processing of reality. You're going to think clearly, you're going to think through all your feelings, you're going to think through your heart, and you're going to make it happen or not make it happen. So this is a ready, set, go moment here for all 12 signs, and we'll talk exactly about what those are. The 3 points that I want to focus on for each of you is this. One, of course, the sun in Scorpio. But sun in Scorpio means that there's manifestation and materialization happening where the earth is. We'll talk about where are you materializing, what to look for and ready to harvest. Then secondly, we have to talk about sun going forward and, of course, Mercury going backwards. It's Mercury retrograde, and it starts Sunday before actually we begin our work week. And then lastly, it's Jupiter retrograde, which is the second argument for emotional maturing. Jupiter has been being easy for you, whispering in your ear the answer, and that's going to go now. It's time to be tested on how well you can tread water and keep yourself calm. So let's take a look at each of the 12 signs and what they'll be talking about in those 3 points. Aries, you're going through some tremendous transformation right now, and that's really what the key question of the week has to do with. From 16 to 22, you're asking yourself, will I change my life? Will I make the step to change my life? And secondly, can I go the extra distance? That is, can you rise to the occasion? Because no matter what you find yourself on, it'll be unfamiliar territory. This is an uncomfortable change for Aries. The sun in Scorpio means that you are changing what you're emotionally are your comfort zones and what you're emotionally comfortable with. So you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable for a while. By a while, we say probably until Christmas time, actually, is how things will kind of unfold. So what's not being talked about is what's materializing. What's materializing for you is material. As the conscious is focusing on, with Uranus going back into Taurus, it means that you have the opportunity to make more wealth or more for less, or however you want to look at the equation, than you have before. In fact, you might have thought yourself on a certain trajectory for the future as far as your ability to materialize things. But Uranus says you have another chance to take a look at this for the last time. This is the last time the sun is opposing Uranus, by the way, while it's in Taurus. So this is the time for your final bid. Now, what's tied to it, of course, is how far you have to go. Emotionally, you might have to go through something that you didn't want to go through at your age. But, after looking at the evidence, you'll see you'll have no choice. This is one of those times where if you don't go for it now, you won't have this kind of momentum, nor you'll have the entire world also changing seats at the same time. The luck of finding a new seat in the next place is much higher if everyone's getting up and going somewhere. Now, this will come down to emotional comfort, and that's really where Jupiter retrograde will hit the most. As you go to make a change to whether your heart's going to be in this change or not, you're basically deciding, will my heart be in this change? Is my heart not in this change? Will I go through the uncomfort to get there? You have to, at the same time, apply everything you've learned in the last 6 months with Jupiter direct in Cancer. Jupiter retrograde says you will now be kind of tested, and your emotional care and your actual day-to-day care has got to go to your home and family. In other words, you've got to keep making the home family foundation stronger, and that will then in turn make you stronger and keep you stronger through the transformation. That's the strategy we feel you should take. Now, Mercury retrograde then begs a different question. It retrogrades, of course, in Sagittarius, and it questions your very belief in yourself. You may believe yourself at a certain age for certain reasons. You may believe yourself at another age when you had children or you went through your career differences at another reason. And what this is saying is perhaps you're getting to the real core of what it is you believe about yourself. And it may not be based on any of your spiritual resume so far. You may be crafting a new belief in yourself. Maybe it's a hunch, something you've always had your entire life. But now suddenly it makes more sense and you can see why you've considered it over and over again. This retrograde for you with Mercury retrograde is going to have you re-question what you believe about yourself and why. And what belief about yourself is really going to pay off the most. In other words, which one do you know in your heart you cannot but help do in your sleep? The one belief that leads to your easiest path, but perhaps your greatest potential. As Mercury goes into Scorpio and it wraps up and goes direct, it'll hit 20 Scorpio, which means you're going to have to figure out how to stay emotionally comfortable while transforming yourself. Probably the only thing I can imagine is a similar example would be, can a butterfly stay comfortable as it goes from a cocoon of a caterpillar to a butterfly? I think that's really at the level we're at here. And don't forget, you are strong, you are healed, you can do this, and it leads to more money. I recommend you do. Taurus are natural producers of the Zodiac. I was going to say internet, but that's true too. Tauruses this week are really going through a profound moment in your story, my friend, because what's happening really is that you're materializing a new character for yourself. Tauruses are all going to move into a new character. Now, George Clooney is a Taurus, by the way. He certainly has been a certain character, representing that Taurus, suave, grounded, down to earth, but also wealthy and good looking. I think that's what Tauruses wish they were, always. And so that image, let's say, with Uranus going back into Taurus, it's going to be upgraded. Who Tauruses are, what they do, what they achieve, it's now ready for some reassignment because of Uranus taking one more trip back into Taurus here. Now, the Sun in Scorpio is really where the change is. It has to do with where you draw the lines in your personal relationships. The most important, of course, is where you draw the lines with yourself, which is the most difficult because you like pleasure and joyful things, and it's hard to draw a line. Pretty much Tauruses finance their success by telling themselves they can have anything, and that gets them far, but unfortunately, that also keeps them slowed down. Most importantly, though, as you go through this chapter, you'll be rewriting your second chapter of house and marriage and partnerships, which means, in essence, you're going to be changing the rules of relationships, ready to now draw the line and probably live by it immediately. In fact, next month, the Sun's in Sagittarius, you'll do a whole month of follow through with these boundaries. So it's time now to commit to a boundary change. And this might be an uncomfortable change. You might have to go without in some cases. You might have to give more in some cases, but you're rebalancing the equation so that you don't skip yourself behind in particular. By step 22, the end of this week, you'll have a quantum breakthrough, hopefully, and transformation when it comes to all boundaries. You're going to change the entire policy of boundaries at the same time, while also committing to a new level of long-term partnership. It's a big one. It's never been gone for before. But then again, you've never been this character before, and that's a big part of the point. Now, Jupiter retrograde means that your mind has got to stay cool. Jupiter in Cancer retrograde, you no longer have the force of Jupiter's optimism to keep your mind positive. Your mind will be very much affected by your feelings. They always are, but Jupiter was adding a lot of positivity and spins on the thing. So now you must be that person that spins it and moves it towards a self-nurturing. Remember, for you, a calm mind means calm feelings and vice versa. And your feelings are trying to get calm and calm into this new role that you're trying to play. So mentally, emotionally support yourself in your mind. Then lastly, Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury starts at step 6 Sagittarius. This means that you are going to actually take another look at your relationship to yourself when it comes to trust. Do you trust yourself? If not, why? And where are the boundary issues? Technically, you just need that 0 from the 10. You got to reassign boundaries. But this may come from changing a little bit what you believe about yourself. Maybe you didn't believe you could change, or an old dog can learn new tricks, but it's now time to change that change or make that change in that belief. Now, Mercury goes all the way back to step 20 Scorpio, which means once you re-question what you can trust in yourself, then you will really know what you can commit to in marriage and partnership. You're basically doing some hard research, and from what I see and where I'm looking at, Tauruses are ready actually to move forward with relationships. So there's a big period to figure out exactly where those lines are and go for exactly what your heart wants this time. It's now time for a major makeover, and you know this already. Have you noticed how fast you've been growing since Jupiter went to your sign early this summer, here in the Northern Hemisphere, that is, since the winter in the Southern Hemisphere? You are now in a place where it's time to turn the corner, and this is in a big way. One, first of all, with Scorpio, it has to do with your heart. You're a person who has Scorpio that rules the heart. So you are all or nothing for the person you love, and that means when they're everything, you're nothing. Those are the odds economically and emotionally for you up until now. What you're learning how to do is draw emotional boundaries. Maybe say no to yourself. Maybe say no to them. Maybe a combination of the both. But what really happens from all this is that a materialization comes to be. You materialize your place in society. You've been having a hard time. And now with Uranus going back into Taurus, you're going to have one more look at just where you could be very useful in society. And in some cases, this caretaker part of you really ought to be paid because you're amazing at it. And it really should be in the public where you get a reputation from it. And this will raise your value, both yourself and your feelings, and also raise value, of course, in society. And if you come to the love table feeling that worthiness in society, maybe you'll keep things balanced with yourself and with your heart. And that's, I think, the hope of the Sun in Scorpio and the Earth manifesting with Uranus in Taurus this month. Find your value in society, and you'll be very clear on how valuable you are in love and with your children even. Sometimes it plays out with children. Now, Jupiter retrograde means it won't be as easy as you may feel, because Jupiter's been helping you, giving you all the answers and helping you cheat on the test when it comes to how to perform in the moment. In other words, you've been naturally optimistic. You haven't been caught up in certain fights as you used to be. You're seeing your way outside of certain traps. That's all Jupiter direct. Now that Jupiter retrogrades, it's time for you to learn what you've done so far and to practice what you have seen, because you will not have the natural optimism of Jupiter to help you in that moment. Now, once that's said, I think you're going to be just fine. You just have to focus on being there for the performer so that your performance can be there for the client. Mercury retrograde, on the other hand, is something different. You have to ask yourself with Mercury retrograde, what is balance when it comes to a daily life? Like, what is 0? What is calm? What is the ground ground floor of living in your body? Is that ground floor peace? Is that ground floor tranquility? Is that ground floor health? You're going to come up with a new philosophy about what that has to do with and what it needs to be. And once you realize what your daily life has to be, the new relationship to the moment, your relationship to now, well, then you'll have to look at all of your heartfelt strings and say, hey, do any of these things I'm going for in my heart work against that new idea of what is the now? So there'll be some re-architecting. And by the end of Mercury retrograde, you're going to have a new peace plan. In other words, a lifestyle, and you're going to re-envision like comfort and safety when it comes to pursuing love for the long term. So most Cancers really end up burning up their tank early when it comes to going after love for the long term. I think now the new Cancer is going to be right on target. We'll see. Things are changing for you in a big way. As we look at the race of Geminis and the dual thinkers, Jupiter has left your sign and has left you to expand now your feelings and your self-worth. But I think what's really happening, if you look at the grand story of Geminis, is you are now materializing for the first time faith, real faith. Now, faith means that you feel like everything will work out. And the scary thing is, can you rely on that and not think about it? That's the whole new Gemini, really. Trying to keep those processors focused on your future, your career legacy, which is now moving forward with that new fate, and also your potential in the world. That's a big picture. So you've got to keep the faith. You've got to materialize faith that you can count on. Now, that has happened actually by the flip side of the spectrum, changing your lifestyle. So from step 16 to 22 for you means you're going to make a decision about a lifestyle change. It could be how you work. It could be the way you work. It could be the equipment you use or the subscriptions you use for your work, the tools. Something may change. Something has got to change. You got to get more than you normally do. And not only make a change, but make a change that will set you up for life. It means there'll be no going back from this part and no this point. There'll be no more having to come up with more money. You should be able to afford this next step and take it higher. So you'll have to be a stunt man or woman when it comes to aiming for the right future, but you only need to be strong when it comes to making decisions about the moment. If you can do it in the moment, you can most likely do it in the future as well. So make that solid choice. Now, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer means you'll no longer be optimistic by logic of Jupiter when it comes to your worth. You might have been confident the last few weeks, be able to tell your boss that you need a raise. Now you have to actually come up with that feeling on your own. That's what the questions are. You must maintain emotional comfort and feel calm because it maintains your wealth as far as people. You feel valuable around your colleagues and coworkers, you'll be up for a raise. If you don't feel valuable, you'll be in for some trouble or some costs you didn't expect. Saturn retrograde is going to do some other changes. For one, it retrogrades. There you go. It's coming in. It's starting to affect me. It retrogrades at 6 degrees, which is your marriage. So you're going to completely reconsider your marriage vows. Those are the promises you make yourself in life, the ones you make in the mirror. Completely re-examine those. Look at them. Everyone's on the table. Mars conjoining Mercury in that space says not only is it on the table, but you're also questioning what you do or don't do, what you follow up with, what you don't follow up with, because there's, you have promises, you just don't do them. Mercury then goes all the way back to 20 degrees Scorpio, which means by the end of Mercury retrograde, you're going to have to reinvent your life one more time because you're going to realize you have to also be there for yourself and follow through your marriage vows and get the work done. But you know what? For someone who processes like you can find that efficiency. Just let your feelings do the walking, though. Your feelings lead you to comfort, and comfort will lead you to success. The leaders of love now in the new era, that's what we call you. And right now you're learning to implement that quite literally. First of all, the Sun in Scorpio means it's time for emotional boundaries in home and family. You are changing what you need. You are building a better foundation, let's say, to your castle. Because underneath this story, what's really happening is you're materializing a new career legacy or an upgrade. Now that Uranus has gone back into Taurus, you had a good look at what might change in your options in society. Now you're looking at your career with different objectives. You might be changing your total battle strategy. You may be deciding to pull out of one investment or double up another. And that is due to the last minute moment of change you have seen as possible when Uranus stepped into Gemini. So back at home, building a foundation that can handle whatever your desire is what's most important. Mostly, first of all, with Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. With Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, it means you have got to avoid your faith jitters and your past life ghosts. Those things are just haunting you, and they have to be passed. You're passing open windows, walking into dark rooms, and feeling solid. Jupiter will not give you a natural optimism that fate's on your side. You may know fate's on your side, but you won't always feel fate's on your side. Your feelings may come up from the past. You'll have to nurture yourself through it in the moment live without any help per se. You can do it. You know exactly how to do it. It's about concentration and boundaries, keeping some things from hitting you in the first place. Mercury retrograde, though, another question. How well do you love yourself? What is your philosophy of self-love? And did you know that self-love is a daily activity? So Mercury retrograde goes, okay, what is the belief about self-love? What must I do to maintain my self-love, to finance these dreams I have? And then as Mercury gets to step 20, one more look at what the castle foundation is. How well are you emotionally prepared to be creative every day? How are you prepared to produce what your heart's dreams are? And are you going to be comfortable? Because comfort is important to Leos. You've got to feel a safety factor. You've got to feel an emotional comfort factor. So can you remain comfortable and safe at home while you pursue your dreams and really change at the last minute your plans for the big picture and what you're going to do? Most fascinating, let's not forget, with Pluto and Aquarius, the way you approach yourself, the way you approach every relationship is forever changing. So that style that you have, that class that you carry, it's time to take it now to the Jetson age and see what that means. And so you've got to be prepared to emotionally be there for yourself, no matter how uncomfortable a moment might be. We'll see how far you go. Hello, Virgos. Things are changing, mostly with the way you think about things. Have you noticed your plans for the future are suddenly changing, and they're based on your feelings, which makes you feel vulnerable? Right now, you are learning how to have new intellectual property, to make value around the ideas that are good and stop investing in ideas that are not good. That means there can be no emotional involvement when it comes to that logical thinking. Your feelings tell you where you are. Your mind tells you what to do about it or what to say. Now, that's all happening because you're actually manifesting and materializing in the background a new purpose, a new meaning, a new value, something that gives you new value in your life and also sets you up for a stronger career and a new legacy for yourself as well. That's what's happening with the Earth in Taurus, this manifestation, this materialization. This is where you're going forward. So you must think differently, and your feelings cannot get in the way of how you think or what your logic is. Don't let emotional fatigue draw into some bad decisions. Now, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer is where the problem will be to some degree, because it means now in the moment, you must be to the world an emotional role model. You've got to hold emotional steady. If you emotionally go down, they will go down because you're the strong one, remember? Now that means you're going to have to develop real-time emotional sound pampering. You got to really get yourself out of any little rut, any little crack at any little time, and keep yourself in a nice, emotional, well-cared-for tone out there in the world. Mercury retrograde says some other things. As it goes retrograde at 6 degrees Sag, your basic philosophy about what self-care is has got to change. What you believe about how much you need has got to change, because usually Virgos only needed what they needed, not what they really wanted. So your philosophy of how to self-nurture is important. And this will go all the way back to Mercury at 20 degrees Scorpio. When it goes direct at that point, you'll be looking at your overall emotional attitude about things. You're going to find that if you approach life with the right emotional attitude, that means your mind and your feelings are on the same team, and we're feeling that as you're an emotional role model in society, then you're actually going to lead society, not be subjected to it. I think this is the moment where you really take your leadership skills to the next level. So what's it all come down to? It comes down to that self-trust in what you believe in, giving you the pampering that you need, and realizing that this is just an average day for Virgos. This is where Virgos find their place in history. Because what's next is when Jupiter goes direct, you're going to take that role on. And with all that work you did in Gemini last year, you got a lot of ideas that you want to make happen. So protect those thoughts. I've got good news for you. It looks like you're getting a raise if you can pull it off, and I'll tell you how to do it. First of all, these boundaries in Scorpio for you have to do with launching some sort of financial initiative. That could be you pulling out of investments, putting into investments, investing in a new industry. Whatever it is, it's probably going to make you a little emotionally sensitive and call for some new boundaries about what you allow to get to yourself and what you don't. You've got to be able to be as tough as nails when it comes to making those investments and going forward. Tough in the sense of listening to your customers' needs, of course, but really not letting the criticism of others, including the criticism of yourself, get to you. Now, this is all happening because really what you're materializing is an entirely new transformation of your life. Nothing that big now, is it? I can't even say this. It's such a nervous thing. But you are transforming your life with Uranus coming back into Taurus and saying, hey, one last look at what you want to change. Now you start to see that you can believe in yourself. Now you see your ideas have really a lot of merit. What do you want to change? You sure as everything's on the list? And so it'll be about feeling comfortable in that change, which means you have to draw emotional feelings and boundaries around what's valuable and not worry about what's not valuable. Have much more articulation in that department. Now, with Jupiter in Cancer, it does mean that you have to be careful. Your emotions may not be always as steady when it comes to career matters. You've had Jupiter giving you optimism and hope. So certain, let's say office politics have not gotten to you. You've been growing considerably well, but you have to do some emotional rapid maturing when it comes to letting things get to you at work also. The Mercury retrograde with Mercury in Sagittarius has to start with your self-talk. Your philosophy about how you approach yourself in your mind, your beliefs about the way you should be talked to. This is the part of yourself, the tone you're taking with yourself, the philosophy, the assumptions you're taking with yourself. maybe the prejudice you take with yourself, this belief or philosophy about how to talk to yourself, this is really where the magic turning point is. Adopt a new belief about how to talk to yourself. And Mercury goes all the way back to step 20 Scorpio, which means by the end, Mercury will be helping you find a new emotional tone around wealth. Your tone around emotional wealth is not correct. And part of it's because the talking to yourself is not correct. You're not setting yourself to bring the best out of you. And if you don't feel like you're bringing out the best of yourself, you're certainly going to feel like you're actually worth charging for it, right? So this is all about, honestly, you getting what you deserve. Finally drawing the lines, but it will take you transforming your life and really putting circles around what's valuable and putting circles away from what's not valuable. Invest in yourself and your bright future. You right now are in a magical place. Happy birthday, by the way, if we haven't said so already. You are basically crafting a new emotional character. You're changing the values of what you go for, what your character does and says and interacts, taking your power in many cases. And that's all because you're changing your emotional boundaries with others, probably lowering some guards and being less emotionally sensitive, having healed in many places, especially when it comes to the fourth house and things like that. But overall, it's because you want to be stronger, more resilient, and more effective. That's what you want to do. But what's happening in the background is you're materializing a whole new type of partnership. By changing your emotional character and your disposition, you're changing the type of person you attract, the type of people you partner with, and how much you all can do together. Uranus in Taurus says, hey, you can take it even higher. You can get more yield from these investments you've made in people, and you do make incredible investments in people. In fact, that's where all your investments go, or in others. Well, it's time for you to now profit from that in some sense. And that means that you have to be less sensitive when it comes to ego and those types of things. Now, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer is a different story. It means that you may become a little sensitive when it comes to your life purpose. You have had strong belief in yourself and strong understanding that you can take on the world if you want to, and that you have the emotional intelligence to take on the world, probably the most, actually. That's because your philosophy of life is based on your emotional happiness. So you have the happy decisions and the happy knowledge to help people be happy, but you may not be so happy when Jupiter retrogrades and you have to do it all on your own and nurture yourself along the way and stay positive. Now, Mercury retrograde is something else. Now it's time to change the philosophy of why you're worth something. What makes you worthy has changed. It's time for an upgrade on that resume, so to speak. Mercury retrograde says, hey, let's check the philosophy of how we calculate self-worth may be different, or what we actually consider in that equation different, or maybe our overall philosophy that we're assuming that we'll get more than we need, not even the chance of not getting what we want. But either way, Mercury retrograde is all the way back to 20 degrees Scorpio before it goes direct. And that means that you'll look at your self-worth, but it'll now be time to look one more time at your emotional character, how you emote feelings and use feelings in your performance, how you pick up on feelings from others, and take into consideration this. Before you respond to that person, before you say what you're about to say, what are you worth to yourself? And what philosophy are you using? Because if you know what you're worth and you have a new philosophy, I have a feeling that moment's going to go really well, and you're going to find yourself more valuable. You're going through some major changes of faith with the sun in Scorpio. Scorpio for you is your connection to the other side. It's very black and white. With Sagittarius to believe. You'd be surprised. Even Sagittarius will hold on to classic things like religion, for instance, sometimes, and hold on to the parts they like and the parts they don't like. But overall, you have to craft your emotional faith at large in spirit and the universe. And so you're going to actually go for a particular something that gives you a greater sense of faith this week. Now, by that faith, we mean not just that it still holds true, but that your feelings hold true, that you can stand in that feeling and not feel vulnerable or sensitive or ever feel like God is picking on you. It's a very important thing, and shutting out all the things you have once learned. Now, with that said, changing that faith means that you're materializing a lifestyle change. You're now ready to look at your lifestyle one more time and go, can we make this even better, even brighter, even more comfortable, and more abundant? And the answer is yes. Uranus and Taurus is giving that opportunity for a few months. So today, this week, this month, with the sun in Scorpio, you'll be now manifesting Taurus a new material life. It's a good time to actually change some things in your daily life that you don't like and upgrade the circumstances. That's really going to be powerful. Now, with all that said, Jupiter Cancer retrograde says you're going to be very sensitive where you weren't before when it comes to personal boundaries, very emotionally vulnerable because you want to change your life. Maybe somewhat swelled up and kind of like inflamed when it comes to personal boundary skirmishes. That's Jupiter retrograde in Cancer saying, hey, can't be positive for you. It's your ruling planet after all, so you will feel the loss of it. It means you must now apply what you've learned and follow your own belief structure and make sure you manage those boundaries, but make sure you feel good first before you worry about anyone else. Now, also part of this is, of course, the Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde starting at 6 Sagittarius, and so that's happening right in your house of ego consciousness. It means it's time for a new philosophy about how to treat you, how to respond to you, how to motivate yourself. It's your self-will, your activation, what you get up off the couch after not. That's the philosophy that's changing. And it'll go all the way back into that faith question again. In fact, Mercury hit step 20, which is what we're talking about this week. And that step 20 is basically, hey, what is your faith in the universe based on? Well, after you realize you treat yourself differently inside, you may have a totally different answer at the end of this week that you did in the beginning about where to draw the line with having faith in God consciousness for a lifetime. It's now time to change your emotional boundaries when it comes to the public. Use Scorpio emotional energy and protection with your interaction with the public, which actually is the part of you that can go cold really quickly. I've noticed that. And do the right thing, what's necessary for the business, if it means layoffs to many. That said, you are going to be more sensitive now and have new tools necessary so you can craft your reputation in the public and not crack yourself emotionally at the job. So you're going to build some new emotional support to yourself and boundaries to support yourself when you're out there interfacing with the general public. Now, this is all happening because what's materializing in the background is actually personal dreams. With Uranus back in Taurus, you now have one last chance to reclassify what your serious joy will come from. Maybe you actually have taken only the easy things, or the things that make money fastest, and maybe not really chosen and drawn those boundaries according to what your heart wishes and dreams about. This is your opportunity to go for what you want. Don't say you were forced to go to law school when you had these kind of planets. You can now change your mind with something like this. Now, with that said, the sun working on that with partnership and whatnot, manifesting in the earth, it means that at the same time Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, it may be some hard times when it comes to relationships. See, Jupiter in Cancer has been giving you a lot of luck, information of how to handle your feelings when it comes to your family, your long-term partnerships, and of course, even long-term business people. How you emote is kind of based off of your relationship. And so your overall big picture look at what makes a healthy long-term relationship needs another look at. You're looking at whether or not you have the emotional boundaries in place to make sure you stay calm before you approach them at all. Now, that retrograde means you'll have some trouble or some challenges and you have to follow through with the tests. The last thing is Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde says it's time to change your philosophy and your belief about what faith in yourself means or how it adds up or what's necessary. Those beliefs are antiquated. Mercury retrograde is going to help you to think differently about that. And Mercury will go all the way back to where we started with the sun in, of course, Scorpio, which means by the end of Mercury direct, when it's ready to go forward, you'll have a new thought about what to go for in society, and a new thought about what to expect emotionally from society, because it'll be based on now keeping faith in yourself and believing in yourself in the moment. So you're going to recalculate, I think, your place in the world based on wanting to have more faith in yourself, which will make you, a much better leader. All right, Capricorns, that's what we have. But remember, stay tuned to your feelings, because without them, I don't think you're going to be able to manifest that dream. Aquarius, it's a phenomenal time because you're being encouraged to go for your career dreams and your legacy. And that's exactly where you need to manage your emotional boundaries. The sun is asking for you to make some emotional commitment to the future. This is what you'll be known for, this legacy. And it's going to require that you are emotionally very calm and not oversensitive. So the boundaries have to be clear. Your space in the work environment has to be clear. Your communication policy has to be clear. Everything has to be clear. And what's going to happen as a result is you're going to manifest and materialize a new form of emotional security. You're going to feel safe in life and grounded in life for other reasons than you had before. Uranus going back into Taurus gives you an opportunity to recraft what brings you emotional security over the long term. This could also be what you look at as home and family and permanent home and family locations. Now, with that said, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer means that you'll be emotionally unstable in your workplace or lifestyle while Jupiter retrogrades. Jupiter's giving you a lot of positivity, teaching you a lot of things. And so with that optimism, it was okay to go to work and feel this way or that way because you felt like everything will work out in the end. You may not know that right now, Jupiter's retrograde. You may not have the wisdom at your fingertips like you did. It's time to really follow with everything you learned and practice as good as you possibly can. Now, that said, Mercury retrograde is a different story. Mercury retrogrades at 6 degrees Sagittarius, which ultimately is asking you the question, what is your philosophy about who you are, where you belong in society? What belief is behind how you identify with your peeps? What belief is behind that unites you with your peeps or doesn't? So re-looking at your relationship to society based on the philosophy you put yourself through, you put yourself out in the world, that's the beginning of Mercury retrograde. By the end, Mercury will hit step 20 Scorpio in its rule of station direct. And that'll be where you'll have a final idea and a final direction when it comes to your overall career objectives and your goals in life. And of course, by that time, I hope that you'll have the emotional boundaries in place so there won't be any defensiveness and you will manifest that security. Well, your future very much depends on your emotional boundaries around life purpose. See, for you to get up off the couch and move forward in something a way you really like, you've lived so many lifetimes being an ancient Pisces, you've got to really be emotionally involved, but you also have to be not so emotionally sensitive. So you're developing boundaries, so make sure that you focus on what's important and let the other things bounce off of you like rubber and glue. Now, this means that you're going to be materializing some of your genius ideas. That's what life purpose is for you. Your value are your great ideas, and you're throwing us back in Taurus. You've got some ideas that might just knock this world out of the park. Real potential for transforming the age. Think of Einstein and his theory of relativity. Genius idea that turned into a lot, right? Now, that said, manage those emotional boundaries around what your purpose is and isn't. Don't let anyone get in the way of that purpose. And recognize when it comes to personal dreams, you're going to lose a little steam. Jupiter retrograde says, hey, you're not going to have the optimism you've had last few months or the good luck you've had with meeting people when it comes to love, romance, personal dreams, and whatever you call serious joy. So you must now practice what you preach. You must now move forward and nurture regularly. And just make sure you're by your side emotionally, because if you are not nurturing yourself emotionally on your own, you're going to lose kind of sight of your personal dreams and maybe fall out of love. Now, Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius is a different story. It means that your philosophy for how you make decisions is changing. Maybe you made decisions before on the philosophy of do no harm, don't get in trouble, don't do the karma again. But now that philosophy of what goes into a decision might be very different. It might have to do with everything going on, including that genius idea. So Mercury retrograde says, let's find a new philosophy about what goes behind a decision. And by the time Mercury goes back to Scorpio at step 20, you'll look at one more time your overall emotional view for your purpose. And even then, at the very end of this transit, you might think purpose again one more different way. Maybe emotionally including something and emotionally excluding something else. So the overall here for Pisces is that you have some genius ideas. We've been waiting to see them for a long time. But you're bogged down by all that transformation in your ego and your career with Saturn and Neptune. Now they dip back into Pisces. There's going to be a moment for you to redirect where you put your overall character growth into anyways. You can change titles this late in the game. You can decide to go for something completely else. Anything you want really with this Grand Trine in water. As long as you are emotionally sensitive and you are paying attention to that sensitivity and you're building the right boundaries, you'll believe in the purpose and you'll also have the genius ideas flowing all the time. Remember, your genius comes down to your emotional comfort. So be comfortable on the fly. That's all the gravity that matters this week. Remember, the key objective this week is to, first of all, define your emotional comfort zones and what feels safe every day. Commit to those rules that will keep you safe and take any and all risks to follow your personal dreams. By the way, if you want daily personal guidance on these matters, customized to you and your sign up today at SiriusJoy.com. We're the most accurate astrology service on the planet. We'll see you next week. I love you. Live, love, be.
This week on Serious Joy TV. On Leading Out Loud, get ready to unmask the unspoken. Dive deep with the dynamic duo this Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Then join us for Astro Mingle on Friday night for a fun Astro conversation with Sensei and guest Michael A. Sugarman. The best in enlightened entertainment, only on Serious Joy TV.